Okay, Damian.
Hello.
Hello. Is this the camera here? Where's
This
the
is our
camera?
camera here. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As you can see,
We did it. Cool.
as you can see, I'm wearing the default patch avatar.
Nothing
There's a
wrong with
reason
that.
for that.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, and that is that it's very small. You've got hands, you've got head,
Mm.
and there's no body in between, literally no body to
Yep.
block any kind of like visual aspect. So it's quite accessible for two people working in the same space. That it's, people can see a lot more in the space.
I totally
I'm gonna
agree.
introduce you
It doesn't read well maybe on a video, but in VR it is actually quite nice and lean and is kind of functional and special. I
Yeah.
like it. I always still like it. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
was thinking of going into making a few, going into this summer, making maybe some avatars, which are just a pair of sunglasses.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. Okay, let me introduce you to what the space is we're working on. It's designed for co-location. So Mary Louise and I are in the same room. This is her table, a representation of her table.
Yeah.
So whenever you click into the default position, you enter this space here. So you can kind of click, and then you're entering that space.
Wait, what do I do to reset my position? Long press?
Just the long press.
Oh no. Okay. There you go. Cool.
There you go. Okay.
Nice.
And I could turn on the very dangerous artifact here that will make you stay in position, but we'll not do that for now.
Okay, cool. So just for context for the video, Damian Mills is working on, you can tell more about it, but on interface or a modality framework for creating musical interfaces and systems for a specific person that has cerebral palsy, but this will be extended and part of kind of a research that you're doing for creating musical instruments for general people with disabilities. Is that
that's right
way to describe it?
Yeah,
and
it's a good way.
Yeah, and I've been also doing the same a little bit, and so I'm here to explore kind of the solutions that he came up with, maybe offer also some perspective, and also pitch some kind of other solutions maybe I had in mind. But I'm coming in completely open-minded, open slate to see what is going on here and offer my also experience as just an instrument builder, doing this a long time in Patch and outside of Patch. And yeah, that's the conversation. Thanks for doing this.
Myself and Mary Louise have a history of working together. We worked first in 2018 as part of a program with Performance Without Barriers at Queen's University Belfast for a project called Embrace, where we used EXA, the infinite instrument. Mary Louise was there in her chair. She was wearing the headset, and I took her controller and I drew triggers around her according to her gestures. So we found it was as long as she could wear the headset and use the controllers, we had to actually use she had to wear the controllers in a very atypical grip. So it was just about accessible, but that she was totally clicked onto it, the same as I was.
Amazing.
And so from the start, we have to consider her position as this woman with cerebral palsy. She's operating this space in a static position. She can't grip the world and move the world like we can do. So everything has to come to her. It's called centered control.
Interesting.
And because of that, it means that the space itself is very limited. It looks very bare at the moment. You can see the saxophone that she loves to play and has performed duets with in the past. She uses this device here that Oaksham, a community member, had created to position a raycast. It's here on her head. I'm going to have to turn it off. It's on her head. We can scan the room.
Oh, you can scan which player in the room is this going to be attached
which player in the room is going to be attached to, and then we flick that and it's now on your head.
There you go. And if I switch it live, can I switch it live and it will jump to you?
I'm not sure, actually. Yes,
maybe
you
I have
can
to turn it off and off and
it's, yes, oh, it's on the camera.
Cool, it's on the camera.
And now it's on me.
Cool. Amazing.
So which was a wonderful thing that was brought in January, I requested it and you guys implemented it. So this is kind of what we'd been using in doctoral research. We created this in Unity. We assigned it onto somebody, Mary Louise's head, and she was able to then play her saxophone using this raycast.
Fantastic.
Now the raycast, we've actually just opened up a few things here. As it happens, so I've made little devices so that she can maybe one day in the future open these up. But for Mary Louise, in a static position, complexity of the space can be disabling sometimes.
Yep.
In that you want her to have lots of options, but you also to encourage musicality right from the very start.
Mm-hmm.
So the first port of call is to hide things that we're not using while we're playing. So this X here, when you receives a ray, opens up a menu system. At the moment, we've got 3 options for scale, and we have a chance to choose the key, the octave, up and down 12. That's not actually working at the moment. We had an array like this with -36 to +36, and that's in MIDI notes. And then we have beats per minute, which is yet to be implemented, but we have it up in the gods up there waiting to be implemented.
Yeah.
And then visibility.
Visibility, what does it do again?
Visibility is not linked now. I can link it now, and it actually links to this device here.
Let's see.
Oops.
Oh.
So you can connect the visibility to all of these. It's not on at the moment, but when you click it, it does come on.
Switch it on. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
They are. One of them turned up. We might need to go into edit mode to make them all appear again.
No
If
problem.
we go into edit mode, opens up a few things here.
So these are like extra controls for the performance style?
Yes, indeed.
Looks like.
Indeed. Okay, so the kitchen is basically everything that cooks in the background. And so by reducing that from the space, you got this, for example, this...
is it like, you would say,
here.
like an accompaniment of a performance a little bit? Something like that?
It's more to do with how everything that's going on underneath. Because, for example, the raycast device, whenever it was implemented, it's got 2 options. It has a continuous ray that triggers once per frame, or it had the option of like linking a pad. So where you're looking at something and you could hit the pad and it would react.
I see.
What it didn't have was a single shot capability. And so all of these objects here have an inbuilt kind of like
recognizing when it's hitting and sending a momentary output, basically. Like, so basically when you hover over it with your gaze with the raycast with a laser, it triggers a response. Can we try that actually, just in a very simple way, so we can see?
Sure. Yeah.
So if I click this, I have to switch to DJ Patchy. That's me. Now it's on me. And actually, I can't see. Do I have to go into play mode?
That is a little quirk of the raycast as well. Usually I have to import a new raycast and delete that one.
There's a bug. Okay, so that I can't see where it's hitting, basically. That's the bug, right?
Yeah. We can fix that now if you wish.
No, I think it's okay. Let's continue a little bit and see, because actually all of the things that Mary Louise can do with her head, we can also do by touching with our controllers, just to addition.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Cool.
So each one of these has a little, if I go into here and open it up, has a little logic system inside that tells you if it's on or off, for example, and then it changes. There's a color change preset in there as well, which turns it on and off there. If I turn that around, you can see the preset moving.
I see.
And so this, making sure that only one shot happens.
So you basically created a button that with its specific behavior, all in PatchWorld, that changes the color and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, isn't there like a feature in can we get out of the I'm just curious about, if I open the this raycasting, is it in system or where is it?
It'll be a block.
In which category? Or I'll just search for it. Raycast. Doesn't it have a feature that you can trigger things with it like you would? Wait, if I go to edit mode, yeah, you have an input here. Fires the raycast once disabled. It's just to output. It doesn't actually hit anything, right? So if
so you have to link a pad to it. That when you hit the pad, it will trigger.
So wait a second. Okay, so that's the difference between continuous. Basically, this just measures the distance. It doesn't actually trigger a pad, right?
You have to,
extra logic for that. That would be cool as a built-in feature. It would save you a lot of work, I think, right?
Absolutely. But for now, we've had to work around it. It's the nature of this.
Okay.
We have to deconstruct things to construct things in PatchWorld.
But that's how we find powerful, simple features that if there's sometimes a lot of repeated work that takes a lot of CPU, that could be like a few lines of code on the block itself. That's how we get new features into blocks. So this is something you should talk to Victor about, if that's a simple thing to do, because then like this turns into, from just like a reader of position, it turns into like an extension of your controller for real. That will be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got options when you go into it. You can look at the all of the different options for triggering various parts of the interfacing.
There is trigger hittables.
Yeah, and there's interface hittables and so on, but it doesn't act as a one shot. It's always a continuous based on frame rate.
So maybe I can help you with that. Let me see. Let me get a pad. An interface. We'll get a pad. Okay. Now, if we turn it on to continuous, you see that it keeps generating on and on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not continuous, then
it doesn't trigger at all. It
doesn't trigger at all unless you ask it to.
Unless you put a pad, connect a pad to it.
Yeah. And then
so it triggers itself.
But then it doesn't do what we wanted.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this? Ray thickness.
Now the only thing about this here is that we have put this logic, and the community member Leonardo Bjork has created a couple of these with the logic itself on the device. They haven't quite worked the way I wanted it, so that's why we've exported the logic to the buttons. So every button in this scene has a logic attached to it, which is for a single shot. So we're still only running at 16%, so it's pretty good.
But the goal is then to, as soon as you hover over a thing, to trigger that thing, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, well, I need to think about it some more. Maybe there is
as you can see, it affects it. So every time... Oh, this one's not working, is it? All of these... based on community feedback as well, have been able to change the colors of these dependent on what scales.
But I have a simple idea for you. Look.
Okay.
If this keeps triggering the thing, the pad. Let's for a second imagine it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you want it to work only on hover and send only one shot. Yeah.
Yes.
So I got you. Look. What you need is some logic blocks. You need a timer, I think. A metronome. No. A delay jolt. I got you. Look. Delay jolt has another feature that its behavior can be either queued. When it's queued, it will, no matter how many signal passes through, it will always send every message that passes with the same delay.
Yeah.
So if I take it off, if I put it on, it's gonna delay all of the messages. But it has another feature that it only sends out the last thing that was sent. And like this, it will basically ignore any messages that pass through that are within that time frame that you set. So for example, if I put it at 0.1, which is like 100 milliseconds, you see it only passed once because it keeps sending. Every time it sends a message here, it resets the timer. It doesn't pass it.
And it's only one of it's taken off.
It's taken off.
There it goes. Oh, beautiful. So that's actually very simple.
Very simple
fix rather than the logic we have created, and that will allow us to use the default raycaster as a device. Excellent. Hargis was looking at something like that. He introduced that, but I didn't think he went into the information to change that parameter. So
the question is how to the problem that I see that it only sends the message when you remove the raycast, not when it goes on.
That's the signifier.
That's an important thing. But I think there's another layer that we can put here. If I can try that, I think we need a gate. Sorry, it's a bit of a tangent, but might be
it's okay.
For you.
It's why I wanted you in here, just to kind of like look at some of the ways to make this a little bit, because the simpler you make things, the more accessible it is for other people to implement.
Exactly. So open and then close. Maybe this way. Okay, let me try something else. Okay, I don't have the solution yet, but let's continue with the discussion. But I'm pretty sure there's a simplified logic here that will allow you to get only the first hit and filter everything else out. I'll think about it. I think that it's not so hard. Okay. Let's keep going.
The next thing is to do with the scalar device. This is what everything here is to do with scalar. This is built based on our doctoral research. It was pretty much the same thing where people could choose the root note, the different keys of that root note, the octave, and whatever scale you wanted to put on there as well. So this is all reactive to that. The colors are brought in, the note changes, and it's all routed through this device here. So I could open it up for you. Excuse me, I'll do this. I'll ungroup it first. The world is saved, and I'll ungroup it again, just to remove some things so you can see what's going on here. So this is the one-shot logic, and then that's going through the router here, and the router is basically acting as the scalar. You can see that it's receiving the note catcher from it's got octave selectors coming in from the octave. I think it's the raycast that's sending. These are sending roots.
So wait, can you explain to me again, like in a simple way? These are adding notes to the scale.
These are notes in the scale. If you choose a G, all of these will this instrument will go to the scale of G. So each one of these.
So it's like the tonic of here. You choose the tonic of the scale that you want. Okay, got it. And these are the type of scales. And this you choose the tonic, the bass note of the starting point. Okay.
So the major, minor, and chromatic are here. Major, minor, chromatic, and I've got I think 13 notes, but that can be added on over time. So, oh, nice one. Yeah.
I'm just shrinking so I can see better. Okay. And these get added up into what? Into scale note.
Yeah, these go out to scale note 12, and these go to these notes here in the instrument.
And where does the sound get generated of when you play one of these?
Yeah, the sound is here at the moment. It's the
okay, got it. So this sends the notes to tell this what it is, which note it is, and this sends the trigger to play this sound.
Yeah. Which is split into two different sections at the moment. There's one
right
for.
Now I don't hear it. Oh. Okay, I think there's some bugs here. Every time I press one of these,
it's very low.
Yeah, it's wait, maybe unplug it for a second. But okay, I get the principle. Can I look into here 1 second? This
sure.
is the instrument. If I look at it, I'm messing up your whole patch. That's good that you have it saved.
It's okay. It's all saved.
Oh, oops. No. This I can't open because it's a device I need to purchase or something.
No, I shouldn't have it sold. Okay, yeah, there we are. I've opened it.
Okay, I'm going to tiny mode, tiny DJ Patchy, so I can look inside here.
I'll join you.
So you have, let's shrink, and so we can see this. Okay, interesting. There's quite a lot of logic here going on. Okay. Interesting.
Again, it's taking the single shot logic. This block here is determining what color is going to be the trigger. So whenever it receives information of what root note it is, it tells that particular device, if it's a MIDI 60, that it's going to be red. MIDI 64, it's going to be yellow, etc.
Okay, I think I get a general grasp of the approach of everything. I'll close all the groups here. Okay, maybe I can tell you a little bit about my approach. That was very, very different, but I see the benefits, and I still have to process and think about it more deeply. But so what I see is that this is basically an attempt to create like a UI system. This is a UI system.
It is, yeah.
It's a generalist UI system because you have you're creating a way to activate buttons, and then within this UI system, you're building basically an app, more than an instrument, because it's an instrument you can tune, you can do a lot of things with it, you can set the general settings, all within this UI system.
Yes, the interesting thing is trying to integrate with the rules that Patch have already, and the scalar system would have been nice to use because you can select discrete notes what you want to include in that system, but it's not raycast friendly. You can't hit it with a raycast, so that ruled it out immediately. I was having to then try to build around that. So the constraints make what's possible happen, and that's kind of like what we launch from. It's ability-based design. I'm able to do this, therefore I can build around it.
Absolutely. Makes sense. And it sounds like the core component here is really, the raycast as the cursor of the UI system, and finding a way to basically identify what is being pressed and how is the big thing. Question: do you have, besides just like, because you have like, if we break it down to the simplest parts, it's like there's a raycast, and when it triggers something, it's either a button, a sustained button, or a toggle.
At the moment, yes. Well, at the moment, it's a toggle. Sustaining a note is difficult because we've got the logic set up for single shots.
Right, which
so
is
having an
valid.
option to switch between the two. Yeah,
I'm a fan of one shots. It simplifies things a lot, especially in PatchWorld. So toggles and buttons, basically, right? Like these are toggles and buttons. Okay,
but sustained brings another expression method to performance. So
absolutely,
it's always useful as well.
But you don't have sustained notes right now, but it's something that you might do in the future. Okay, cool.
The way we sustain it is through Action Dyne's arpeggiator, for example. That I think we've lost a lot of our buttons here. There we go. Let's hit the visibility button here. We might need to go into edit mode again to see it. Yeah, and so we can turn on the arpeggiator. It was here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so this is raycastable. You can turn it on and off, and that's then it sends a.
But this you can't edit with the same raycasting, right?
The only way we can change the sound is you can't edit this with raycasting.
Question. Why not have another? So you have the head, right? And you have why not can Anne-Marie use any buttons at all to trigger? Because that solves
for her hands.
That solves
this. This is for her hands.
Oh, what's this?
This is also.
It's nice
for her. Yeah, this is a way of controlling, for example, the breezy bass.
Modulations. This is different timbre.
So you can make things visible and invisible. Yeah. So she can ray trigger this and use this with her hands. She can turn that one off,
and she uses her hands without controllers, just moving, or
she cannot grip a controller.
Got it.
She can only use and then her hands, because of cerebral palsy, have she takes her time. She approaches instruments very slowly. She's negotiating with her own body to try and move things. That's the nature of cerebral palsy. It's not it doesn't react. Her body doesn't react in the way our brains think of something and our hands move. Sometimes our hands move before our brains think about it. With Mary Louise, every act is deliberate. Every movement she comes in. And for example, this, even testing the nature of, these are all turned off. Even testing the nature of this, if you open this up and inspect it, you'll notice that she doesn't have the ability to go. She has to go to the edge to move it up and down, and that is to stop the Midas touch happening. You know of the Midas touch? It happens in casting as well.
I know the classic story, but I don't know what in this context.
Everything turns into gold that you touch, including the king's daughter.
Right,
and you don't want that to happen. So the Midas touch is a very difficult thing to work around in VR because the ray casting.
But what does that mean in this context, Midas touch?
I'll get to that. In the ray casting has the Midas touch, and everywhere you look, if it's attached to your head, if we're having a conversation, I'm playing an instrument. If I turn to you to talk, the ray cast is now hitting you. So it's always on. We don't have that option to turn it off at the moment. Same here. If you have two things on, you're going to operate two things at the same time. A lot of sliders and a lot of control, we used to have to use our controller or our finger pinch to grip it, to move it. And that's a discrete action. With this here, if you have this set to move, to jump to anywhere that you touch the interface, then it's going to jump to it. So it's unwanted action. Whereas this is it narrows it down. It's only going to interact if you go anywhere near the interface between where it's on and off at the moment.
I see. So that's the core problem that I see that's repeating here everywhere is the Midas touch, because you need another dimension of control. You need a way. You need a cursor. You need a cursor button that's like on off. That is deliberate. Otherwise. And I wonder if that was also the experience with testing some of this, is that things get triggered unexpectedly.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it's all about bringing.
That's the big design challenge. That's the big creative design challenge here.
Yeah, it's the static musician trying to control things purposefully.
Yep. So I think if you solve. So both on the patching level and on the design level, so like patching level, I mean like reducing clutter and like simplifying systems, and on the design level, like the choices that you make that will make the system work and feel good.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to solve here is the Midas touch, and it's how to be able to deliberately decide if a gaze or a movement is deliberate. That's the big
Exactly.
problem.
A friend of mine
Seems unsolved.
A friend
Like,
of mine is working in the Performance Without Barriers research group. She's doing her doctorate at the moment. She is looking at intentionality of movement using, I think, the Kinect, the Microsoft Kinect, and movement in space. So it's related to virtual reality, but she's looking at intentionality and artificial intelligence and how AI can help a person distinguish between a communication gesture or a performance gesture. I'm moving my head.
So I tell you how I solved it in my approach.
Yep.
Which is, first of all, I'm not using a raycast. Mm-hmm. I'm splitting up the concept of what is the interface that is going to be used. If it's a head, if it's a hand, if it's a controller, it can be anything. Mm-hmm. And I'm just taking I'm using the head as like a starting point, but I'm imagining that it could be whatever, and I'm thinking about it as like axis of expression. So you have with the head, you could think that you have 3 dimensions in the head that you normally use. This one, which is like actually an arc. It's not a straight line usually. This one, and you have this one.
Yeah.
These are just three. Yeah, exactly. Pitch you on this. I mean, you could claim that you have this also, but it's not very natural movement, and so I ignore it. But potentially, it could be that. Now, these 3 axes, you could also say that in your arm you have even more, right? You have this, 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 this. You have like 6, at least 6, but you also have buttons, right? You have buttons, you have as many, but each button is another axis of potential control,
a multiplier.
Yes. So instead of thinking about, like, right now your whole system is actually built on a 2-axis
2D
control, 2D.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With the exception of these that are like expansions. So it's trying to think in 2D, and use buttons and triggers. That's why I'm saying it's like a UI, right? Using buttons and things. Okay, so my starting point is that you have axis of expression, and every axis can potentially be used for anything. So with that starting point, I'm not building UI. What I'm building is actually canvases that can be calibrated. Maybe I can show you it, but it's basically like canvases that, well, because I'm starting with the head, it could be a 3D canvas, but because I'm focusing on the XY and tilt, then it's actually 2D canvases that can be calibrated. Maybe I'll get a pencil. I can draw a little bit. So, is the camera still on?
Oh yeah, I can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So if this was the person, I'm basically imagining, instead of like buttons on an instrument, I'm just imagining a very minimalistic piano surface that can be just a canvas, and the user can set where the canvas is, how big it is, and now this canvas reads without even a raycast. It just has calibrated a visual position, a visual surface, and now that you have this visual surface, it's basically like a calibration of certain area of your movement space. So instead of saying like, okay, I have a button, each button needs to have like a life that knows when you're on it or not on it. Now I have a space that's like a screen. And now within this screen, you can do things. So the interesting thing here is that you can have different screens with different shapes. Okay. But the way each screen works, it's a bit more agnostic. Like, for example, you with my system, you could say that the Midas touch problem, when you want it to trigger, I call it just the cursor input. So you have outputs, right? The inputs are the axis of expression, what they are. Is it the tilt of your head? Is it the movement of your arm? Is it these are like inputs. Then you have like what's the mapping, what each input does, and what's the calibration of that input. So like which region is it like measuring? So for example, I could say that the cursor on off gets triggered only when you enter the canvas. And now when you're in the canvas, you can move, you have X, Y, and tilt or whatever you want inside of this area.
Yes,
okay. So for example, just to make it very clear, you could have a piano, a simple 2D piano and you can choose and you can set up in different ways the mapping that, and you can say, okay, what behavior do I want? Do I want that it will trigger only when I hover over it, this key or this key, or do I want to use an external button, or do I want that the volume, like this X going up and down, actually controls the volume, or another parameter, or however I want, basically. So instead of instead of a raycast determining, looking at objects, and these objects need to talk to other objects and like know which object is being hovered. Now this here, it's more just like you have a region. Where is this? You have a region of activity. You have different axes of expression that operate on this, and that can activate different things according to how you choose it. That's basically the idea. And then you can generate more.
That's nice because it does treat the raycast is still within its kind of like two-dimensional zone of operation. One thing that is of interest, because that is acting, I initially thought it is acting like an instrument, so you can then program it to modulate or change various aspects. You can link it to instruments in and out of this space.
Yes. It's based like an instrument, but you could actually take the same idea and say, instead of like, okay, these are like piano keys and each one is a different note on my also the other thing is that I like to think more minimalistic in like how to arrange things. So like up and down, left and right. For me, it's less cognitive load than having like things on a like more even like a piano that has like the white and the blacks. I'm like very stupid, simple for me, so that I have just left and right, and
so all of these designs here are based on prototypes that I have created based on the known gesture ranges and preferences of Mary Louise. So
so it's just me. Example, it could be very different for different people.
So the ability to summon and dismiss things from this space is why some of these interfaces were created. The actual use of blocks or 3D objects is not necessary. I totally agree. So if they were to appear as a canvas, then that probably takes up.
I mean, I can tell you,
they're more programmable.
I can still man your design. I can still man your design by like saying that the really cool thing there is that potentially, if you have all these like interfaces in the UI system as like things, then the thing you were mentioning before, you can kind of automatically bring them into view, take them out of view, and have like encapsulate functions in specific shapes or things. This I really like, actually. I don't know how this would translate into, for example, controlling tempo. Not sure if that's
Yeah, I have this is a tempo machine up here. This was for hand, and it was basically taken from somebody else's creation, but it just with a few presets of where the tempo goes. So it can be hand changed. Again, we're using that non-grip function, which this one requires, and then it can be discretely adjusted in +5 or +1 or +10. So the way of creating tempo is maybe through using the building blocks. Don't know where that went to. Building blocks of something that can be raycastable, but so it kind of does exist, or and can be adapted. And that's what I've done a lot of, is like deconstructing instruments, purchasing them, deconstructing them, adding other bits in to make them accessible. So there is a little bit of adaptation as well as adopting the whole space.
You know, I think, did you ever play with these, the variable stuff?
No, I haven't.
So this might be the way to do everything that you're doing. This could be the way. So look, I never actually use these because they're like a deeper level than I permitted.
I've seen them
so far. So look, you can take a shape. Can they see us there? I wonder if there's too much noise in the background. Maybe we can move to like a more empty background to try this experiment.
I'll spin the camera.
So I'm gonna try to use a block system I never really used and see if it works. Okay, so variables allow you to set variables, names, like tags, to any block that you want. And so this one is get variable and this one is set variable. So let's connect this set variable to here and this
and
get variable to here and call it something. Joy. Okay. So if I and here manual trigger, let's trigger it. Do we have option to? Okay, let's do this. No. Okay, how do I apply it? Manual trigger. Let's get a button so I can apply this variable. Get a trigger here. I got it. It's fine.
Okay.
Now, okay, it still doesn't work. Let's try to value 1. I actually don't know how to use these things. But I need to get variable. And now I want to load this variable. Fail, output, variable name, ID picker. Oh, what's the player picker ID? No. So this is Joy. Oh, maybe I need to. Oh, and I think you have two. I have to. Okay, attach a named variable with a numeric value to one or more blocks. Use it dynamically to dynamically tag blocks. And later retrieve or filter them with get variable and all with variable. This should work. So I have here number 1. Manually triggering. If connected, only assign the variable. No, that should be. I don't even need to connect it. Let's see. Yeah, I see here. If you when I connect this and you go to the inspector of this block, you will see on the bottom there is a variable joy 1.
Joy 1.
Right? And now let me reconnect this maybe. It doesn't want to reconnect. Oh, it failed. Why did it fail? Fail. Send 0 when the connected block does not have this variable attached. Oh, I have to have this here joy as well. Okay, and now it sends, if it has that variable, then it sends a 1. So now if I connect this, no, it's basically the same. Well, first of all, what I did is I turned anything into like hittable, but that's not new. So what do I do? So it keeps
Because
hitting
again,
it.
it's coming out at
Yeah.
That delay function worked really well earlier.
Yes, but
as well as the logic blocks that we have.
But
Leo.
wait a second. Yeah. All with variable. Let's read this 1 second. So output every block that has a given variable attached, combined with a block for each to act on each result, or with the inspector to filter by value and sort the list. Okay, this needs deep investigation how to use all of this. But I'm wondering if you can make your UI system more modular in a way that each button has the minimum required blocks within it, and then you have another device or group where you make, it's like a patching bay that you take button 1, and you connect it to a specific function. Yeah, I have a feeling like the answer is maybe this is not needed. Maybe it's more about the test that I did before. But also the delay could solve potentially the Midas touch issue just by saying if you just hover over something and for a button to act, you need to be there on it at least 200 milliseconds.
3 seconds. We use that in our doctoral research, and we use that for the musically.net website that uses WebXR to kind of like arrange and then perform in using raycasting from your head. The delay of 3 seconds is really useful for UI elements, but you don't want that 3 seconds for performable blocks.
Yeah.
So you want that instant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's great.
And the ability to change that parameter as well. So if you prefer 1 second delay or 3 to 5 seconds delay, depending on ability, that was kind of built into that system as well.
So my advice, I don't know how you, I don't know, have total visibility on how you build all of these, but my advice to you would be not to put the actual function within the buttons, but just have them like generic as much as possible. All of the UI generic as much as possible, with just like even like a channel number on the connectors, on the wireless connectors or something if needed.
We've done that for changing. There's an interface up here. Where is it? Here it is. That basically works on the channel number. This is all channel numbers for triggering different. It's not connected to anything at the moment, but we would have multiple audio players, and this would then determine what the instrument sound would be. So in a previous world, which is connected to this was just imported in from that world. That would then trigger different sounds. It gives you the options for enabling different sounds to come in through using
that makes total sense.
Channel numbers. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but this whole world is created based on the way that Patch is built at the moment. When Patch reiterates and creates simpler and more functions in the back end of the raycast, then we won't need as much of the detail that we have in here. But to make it performable as it is for Mary Louise's needs, we've had to design around her needs.
Totally. That makes total sense. And also, like, that's the thing with PatchWorld. There's so much potential to iterate and find new UI things, even just for like example, a toggle or a button that has a timer on it, that like you could have like a little animation move around to show like the 3 seconds, if you have to stay on it for 3 seconds for it to toggle. So you have to build all these animations and then hope that someday it will be kind of part of the in a better way part of the UI system, specifically with
animation signal. animation so useful for signifying things happening. The original kind of getting things in and out of the space used rails. So you hit presets to like move instruments in and out. But we found that rails were very difficult to transport to other parts of the space. We
how
had
do
to
you
learn
do
the
now?
whole method. Then it's just visibility, making things visible and invisible.
That's much easier.
It is. And it allows you then to be able to place this anywhere and then take this apart and place this part somewhere else.
By the way, the nice thing with my approach is that it's all based on calibration. So instead of like moving the user, the player, to the correct position, this system actually is agnostic to where you are and where you're facing. You just have to calibrate your center point. And then actually things do move to you using a specific system. But I just wanted to show you specifically about using visual aid for something like a toggle. You can use these two. They're interfaces, but they were also designed to work as just
responsives,
visual guides. If you hide the body,
because there's an input there,
there's the input. You could actually hide the input and output, and you could make it non-reactive to touch. Interaction type I put none, and then it's actually it doesn't work. Let me do the same here. I'm
just going to spawn up my where is it?
Hide body, exponential dial.
Oh, here it is. Sorry, I've kind of used that in this device.
Oh yeah,
which is a touch mixer. It follows your hand up here, and this is also what you're saying about using the reaction of that, and you can change the colors of to match the instruments in the space.
That's pretty nice mixer. Oh yeah.
So
it's just an indicator.
The next would be to turn these numbers into off devices, on and off, mute devices, so you can use these buttons to mute. And
fantastic. Yeah, so you know this as well. This can be useful for creating like a circular timer. So if you're hovering on a thing, and then
yes. We my I think one of the avatars that I use in social media uses just the device that I created for that. It's a colorful flywheel that that exposes over time if you've completed an action.
So lastly, I think we covered a lot of stuff. Lastly, I'm curious to chat with you just a little bit about how you feel about something like this. Do you feel like it opens the door for almost like another element of musicality? Like you have rhythm in music, you have rhythm, melody, harmony, intensity, timbre. All these things have been explored in music for hundreds of thousands of years, probably in different stages. So, for example, I always think that, like early Christian music or classical music really explored harmony. You could say that I don't know, Indian classical music is going like deep exploration into melody. Electronic music is the way to go, and modern music production explores timbre and in ways that were not possible before. And I'm wondering what's your experience with thinking about instrument design or the interface as the element to explore in musically, because I saw you writing something like that the act of building these things is almost like making music, but instead of making music, building the tools for making music. I wonder if you have
Yeah, the accessibility comes not just from the performance, but the ability to direct performance. And that's where I think your artificial intelligence voice commanding system building setup is very interesting. Now, Mary Louise is non-verbal, so we can't use that, but AI is quite useful, I think, for example, for being able to understand gesture ranges, or as researcher Grania Myers is looking at, the intentionality and the Midas touch and so on. I think, first of all, that accessibility is based on observation and feedback from the people who we're building it for. So it should be considered at the very start. The most accessible instrument that you have is something that everybody who comes into PatchWorld plays, and that is first time load in, and you move your hand and you're given this like sparkly thing that you follow. All it does is take your gesture and translate it into expression and movement-based forms of changing that sound. And you can sit in that space forever and just do that, but we never see that again. That's something we see at the very start, but would be brilliant if it was brought into a box that you could just like say, okay, put your hand in that box. We can build that now, of course, with all of the blocks, but it's something that we see once and it disappears forever. Okay, I've seen it a few times now.
It's a good point. So, it should be turned into an instrument. It is built with the same blocks as this, so it's relatively easy. Totally. Also.
Yeah. But it looks and feels great, and everybody gets to do that because it doesn't matter if they're using their hands or if they're using the controllers. My hands aren't being picked up right now, but
that's a really good point. I forget that some of the simple things that we have introduced should be better brought into the ecosystem.
It's only because I'm looking at through the lens, the magnifying glass of accessibility that, you know, kind of like, that's my approach. And that's something I think I observe individually in terms of how I want to then translate that to other people.
Amazing.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, Damian, thanks a lot for showing me the stuff. I hope might have been useful for you, and I'll try to think more about this thing of how to simplify the logic using the raycast, because I do see
if you want, I can reset the world and you can take a copy of it, or I can publish it. It's almost there. There's a couple of things.
Maybe just make it send me a copy, just share with me the world. You don't have to give me editor rights. Just share with me, and I can make a copy, or I can just build something easy using raycast, a pad, and this stuff just to try when I get time to it. Cool.
No problem.
Okay, thanks a lot for this.
Thanks very much.
Yay. Okay. We did it. Okay. I'm gonna turn off the recording now.